Welcome back. President Obama signed a stimulus bill into law back in February, but statistics show few signs of the bill are actually working.
Yep, San Diego County alone faces, of course, unemployment rate of about 10%. And, you know, obviously the idea was to create some jobs, and Congressman Bilbray is in studio. Talk a little bit about this and the possibility of another stimulus plan coming our way. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So this is your Columbus Day break, I guess?
Yes, actually, this is my event for the day, and so I'm really kind of excited to go back.
Thanks for spending it with us.
Yeah, let's talk about this stimulus. First of all, I guess there's a theory that the first one didn't work at all. It may have worked in some cases. I know that it's created some jobs, but what about this second stimulus plan? Where's this thing coming from?
Dan, first of all, it did something. I think everybody should be fair. It's just when you spend almost $1 trillion, I hope it does something. But it really became a grab bag for Washington, typically going out there. The second one now is being talked about. But you got to remember, as the line goes, let no crisis go unexploited. A lot of people in Washington see these stimulus now as being a great way to justify creating a whole new pork package to be able to feed to their guys so they can put up signs, cut ribbons, and get a lot of credit between now and the next election. The trouble is, who's going to pay the bill for the next century as we crank up $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there, and pretty soon we're talking about some real money.
Yeah. The trillion's the new billion, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Scary. That's scary.
It was interesting. We were talking to Jane King live on Wall Street, and they're hoping to hit a milestone in the next couple of days. They're 75 points away from the 10,000 mark. So, I mean, there is a little bit of renewed optimism, but the job situation obviously is dire. And now we're talking about more stimulus money. Where would that money go, and how is it going to be injected into the economy to make a difference this time?
Well, and that's the problem. Most of the stuff's being planned is items that are really backloaded, and this, the last stimulus plan proved that. Without any way of paying for it. But now they're looking at how to create their pet projects again, which are going to be backloaded, going to be 2-3 years away. That's too late. So that's one reason why a lot of us are looking at how do you sort of lower the tax rate for the middle class? How do you sort of give small business a break for a while and limit that as a true short-term stimulus, because that's where the majority of jobs are created in the small business. But try to get that shot in the arm, but don't make these long-term commitments in the trillions. Be more focused. Take the time to do it right. It's, we may act like it's our money, but in reality, it's our grandchildren's money.
Yeah.
That is true. All right, let's talk about the situation in Afghanistan. Obviously, the president under a lot of pressure to send more troops over there, as the general has suggested. Needs more troops. It's probably going to happen, but maybe not 40,000.
Well, I think that Senator Feinstein said it well. If you're not going to trust McChrystal, who are you going to trust on this issue? You've got to give the troops what they need while they're there, or get them the heck out. I think, though, the one thing that's not talked about, and we were just briefed last week by the secretary of, and he basically was pointing out all kinds of things. But one of the biggest problems is civilian things that we're doing wrong. People don't realize that as Americans, we created a constitutional structure to where the central government controls everything. That the 80% of the people that live in the country really have no congressmen, have no mayors, have no governors that they can elect, because the people in the city get to elect all those. And we've done this stupid proportional representation. We've taken the central government. And I think as Americans, we take it for granted that we may not support the president, but we got a mayor we can work with, we have a governor we can work with, we've got legislators, we got our own congressmen we can complain to. In Afghanistan, we have cut that out, and so now the people in the village say, hey, this isn't our government. We don't know who's there. Yeah. And a lot of it, too, is the nonprofits. We spent a lot of money under the Bush administration, and we're continuing to do it over the Obama administration, sending so-called nonprofits in there that are really, in my opinion, ripping us off. And as the ranking member on procurement and government oversight, I'm really looking at that. There was so much scrutiny on the for-profits in Iraq, but we overlooked these so-called nonprofits in Afghanistan, and we need to look at that. So the troops got probably going to go.
This is billions of dollars in American taxpayers' money you're talking about,
and
here.
This is
that just disappears.
And this creates the economic opportunities that gives people a reason not to grow opium, not to pick up a gun and shoot at an American. We haven't created those opportunities yet, and so the military presence is a means to an end. It's not an end to itself. But we've got to talk about why we haven't done the civilian things that need to create a secure future.
And back to the military presence and the troop buildup, President Obama really is kind of pressed between the wall now. I mean, here he has received the Nobel Peace Prize, which was, some say, was basically kind of pressure on him to not follow through with more troops in Afghanistan. And then you have General McChrystal saying you need 40,000 more men on the scene. So what's he going to do?
Yeah, it's really put the president in the worst position. I mean, I don't think they did him any service, because what they've done says we're giving this to you based on what we think you're going to do. It really makes, he'll never be able to fulfill their expectations as any reasonable person could. But I think that the biggest thing you've got to do is understand that, we've just lost some troops because the bad guys knew that we were talking about pulling out of that outpost. We can't delay this. He's got to make decisions in a timely manner.
So
that's
you're saying
part
those
of
40 people that died a couple of days ago is because
the base was attacked, and the word was out that base was in a withdrawal. So from a political point of view, if you know that someone's going to probably pull out, you hit them, then you got the propaganda that, hey, look, I drove them out of here, even though they may have been leaving before. So this hesitation is very dangerous. Part of being the commander-in-chief is making these tough decisions. That's why the guy got the job. People believe that he could make these decisions. Now he's got to take the time to get them right. But this is one of those things that hesitation, indecision, and second-guessing your generals in the field can be very, very dangerous and deadly.
Let's leave it with something positive here, and this is this car that you've been promoting up in the North County, and it shows a lot of promise, and it's an alternative fuel electric car. Explain that to us. And is Congress going to build in any tax breaks for companies like this so they can start creating jobs?
Well, that's what we finally got. That was one big reason, working with Congressman Schiff up in the Los Angeles area, bipartisan, to give the same tax credits and give the Carlsbad. Yeah. And it is actually, it's electric, it's also hybrid, and it's also small gasoline that gets 200 gallons. Wow. I mean, 200 miles a gallon. So you can choose, and it has a very diverse, it's not an $80,000, $150,000 car. No. So it gives you the chance to be able to do that. And really what it was is that it was much like we did with the algae fuel. The scientists looked and reverse engineered so that instead of getting a product that is kind of good, you actually got the end product you want. A teardrop shape that allows two people, 2 golf bags, and 2 8-foot surfboards in it. And, Carlsbad, you got to have
you got to have a surfboard, yeah.
But that was, and then they took, instead of going with metal and steel, the old technology that's been around for 100 years, they've gone to the composite technology that Dan and I use on our surfboard every day we go out, using composites, which are lighter, stronger, much more crash resistant. So they were able to keep the safety up, the weight down, the mileage long. And that really is the kind of thing. And what I like is government reforming itself and making it possible to do these good things, change our regulations. We keep saying, why doesn't Detroit, why doesn't the private sector think outside the box? Well, we create laws that make it illegal to build a car outside the box. So we've got to change it. And, that's where the regulations need to change. Right now I'm working on Mary Nichols and the governor to change the regulations in California to allow this new algae fuel to be produced in California.
Yeah, because right now it's not.
They have to
go to Colorado.
They're going to New Mexico and Colorado to build it there because our government regulations delay so long that they won't be able to build within the decade. So I think this is where we ought to say, we want the private sector to do their part, but the public sector, the government, has to do our part of changing the way we do business, and be an ally, not an enemy. Do more of get to yes, and that's what we do with Aptera. We found a way to get the yes. Even though it has 3 wheels, it works, and that's what matters.
Congressman Bilbray, thanks for stopping by on this Columbus Day. Appreciate your